How's it going? Sunday night chat. I feel like I'm kind of phoning it in today. Excuse me. You think it's mustache wax, but it's snot. I did that joke the other day. I don't know how many people saw it, so. So the women who, remember this thing that happened? It was a couple of years ago, right? They were saying, there was all these memes and whatnot on the Facebook and whatnot about beards having fecal matter in them. And every woman I know from back home went off on this crazy thing about beards. I don't want to have any... You know, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I mean, unless you live in a cave and you shit in a cave, or you're living in your van and you're shitting in your van. You're not showering every day? I don't know. I scrub and wash my facial hair while I scrub and wash everything else. I'm very hygienic. Listen, also, full disclosure, yesterday was 420, so I decided to partake a little bit here before this show. It's the first time I've ever done that. I've never been on YouTube in that state of mind. So let's see how this goes. And I am having a drink. Keep in mind, 1 drink a week. And I really don't even want to do it, but I'm doing it for you guys because maybe it makes me a little more animated. Maybe it's the wrong thing to do. There's a bunch of sober people right now watching this going, "You don't need that." You're right, I don't need it. But I figure I like it. I'm going to try it out. So what I'm going to do here is I got a bunch of notes written down on paper that are things that popped into my mind while I was watching something on TV, or I like that Gutfeld show, it makes me think of funny things, or watching Kill Tony or whatever, and it's like, oh, that reminds me. And I just write a sentence to myself as a reminder, right, to work that out. There have been stacks of paper in this apartment with that sort of stuff written down on them. Pretty big ones, and they go back decades. And I've got a bunch of 3-ring binders up here of ideas that I've been wanting to work out, and a lot of them are also design things, furniture, a lot of t-shirt ideas, stuff like that. And I had a couple things on my mind. I just didn't want to get serious with you guys today because the last one I did was on the OJ thing, and for the most part that was pretty well received, but not by everybody. Not everybody gets it. I mentioned this in the video the other day. You can't go by the title. Watch the video. I think it's pretty good storytelling, and it's all off the cuff as usual. So, but I figure let's keep it light. Let's pick this up and see what's in here. I have not read these. I picked them up. I just glanced to make sure that they weren't work notes. You know, stuff I need for jobs. So they're in no particular order, and they're not worked out. All they are is, like I said, a sentence to remind me. And then we'll try to work something out with this. This one is not that. So right off the bat, this is more along the lines of LA stories, right? So a lot of people like the LA stories. And when I first got here, when I first moved here, I drove out here across the country with like $600 in my pocket. $600 in 1992, you know, that's like $5,000 today. And that went away pretty quick. I didn't have it very long. And I'm cutting this short to get me to West Hollywood. So I eventually met these girls because I signed up to do, I saw those numbers. I used to put these phone numbers on the telephone poles, like for extra work and whatnot. And I pulled one of those numbers, called it, went in, had a meeting. They took a bunch of pictures. And I met these gals that worked there who were very attractive. And then I started hanging out with them. And I was getting some work pretty much from the jump. And they introduced me to this guy. Needed a roommate, Ron, who did this kooky painting over here. He was a painter, and he needed a roommate. He was living in West Hollywood. So I moved in with him. I don't know if did I tell you guys this story already? I don't know if I'm lit, you know, I'm going to be repeating myself here. This has nothing to do, we'll get to this, but I didn't know what West Hollywood was. I didn't know. And if you don't know what West Hollywood is, stick around. It's going to get revealed in the next 2 minutes. I was supposed to meet him at some joint on Santa Monica Boulevard. So I did. I got there early, because that's what I do. Get everywhere early. And I go inside to get something to drink, like something to eat, like a muffin or something. And when I go in there, everybody sitting in there is looking at me. It doesn't jump out at me at the moment that it's all men. But everybody's staring at me, and several of these dudes are looking at my crotch. So I looked down, and I thought maybe my fly was down or something, you know. I got a weird vibe, right? As you would. So I go outside. This dude Ron shows up. You, Mike? Yeah. We start talking, and I asked, I said, getting along well. Both DJs and everything, we had that in common. And I stopped him for a moment. I said, hey, man, is there something wrong with the way I'm dressed? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I went in there to get something. Everybody was staring at me. I just got a weird vibe. He starts laughing. He goes, well, this is West Hollywood. I'm like, well, okay, what does that mean? He says, West Hollywood. He goes, well, everybody in there is gay. You know, that was all men in there? No. Come on, man. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea. No idea. The whole town. And that's where Ron lived. Westminster Ave or Boulevard or something. I think it's like 1 block east of La Cienega. Excuse me. Just north of Melrose. Great part of town, actually, because if you went further west on Melrose, there used to be a bar there called J. Sloan's on the corner. And it was, a straight joint in that part of town. So that was a good place to hang, let me tell you, back in the 90s. So, actually, I believe the story is the bartender there wrote the script for the Boondock Saints. This guy had glasses and a bushy mustache, and when you watch the film, The Boondock Saints, I knew that guy. I don't remember his name now. Steve, maybe? He knew you. I was in there a lot, and I had a lot of fun there. A lot of crazy stuff happened in that joint. But if you watch The Boondock Saints and you watch at the end, right, they're like, it's like street interviews with people. Like, what do you think of the Boondock Saints? And people are like, yeah, good for them. And other people saying that we got to lock them up and all that. He's one of the people that they interview. He's behind the bar. It's at J. Sloan's, even though that film takes place in Boston. A little bit of Hollywood trivia there for you. A lot of people don't know that. So anyhow, I got there and I needed a job. So I walked down Melrose Ave, and there was this joint there called Brian Jeffries Design Greenhouse. And Brian Jeffries was, I didn't look at the time yet. Brian, what time is it here? I look at it, but because of my state of mind right now, I'm not remembering. It's almost 5:30. Remind me of that later. So Brian Jeffries was a model. He was an old guy at the time, but he dyed his hair jet black, and yeah, he looked pretty good. He was a handsome guy. He was like Fabio, right? He was a romance novel model. So all those romance novels with the paintings of the dudes, he always had this jet black hair. Kind of looked like Clark Gable without the big ears or the mustache, handsome guy. So this joint was like 2 stores, wall knocked out in the middle. It was right over there like Poinsettia. I think it was the corner of Poinsettia. Aardvarks is catty corner from it, across the street. It's not there anymore. So I walk in this joint, and at the time, the place sold all the cool tchotchke stuff for your house. And there was a distinct style going on in the 90s, And he was a big part of establishing that style. That's the place where everybody went to buy their stuff. I wrote some names down, because I met Maria Conchita Alonso in there, Ice Cube. I had some other names, but they're not here. I wrote down Brian and Greg. That's the two. Yeah, Brian, and Greg was his boyfriend. Anyhow, I got in this joint. They used to sell, I have one somewhere. Remember those hurricane lamps? They were like blown glass. You put the candle inside. They were different colors. You could see the bubbles in the glass. A lot of times they had these metal stands for them. Sometimes they sat on the floor and they had different heights. Some of them were short. You could put them on tabletops. They sold those there. All that kooky stuff. And I could sell. And I told them that. I managed it was called the Sunglass Menagerie on the boardwalk in Seaside Park. my senior year of high school. Opened, closed, did the books, all that stuff. Hired people, fired people, which is another story I wanted to tell. And the regional manager for there is something that happened here too, because I ran into her at this store years later. Running into her out of the blue. It was pretty funny. But Brian Jeffers Design Greenhouse, this guy, he was gay and he was a chicken hawk, and he would hire all these young guys and he would try to seduce them. And I guess his boyfriend, they had a problem with his boyfriend, his name was Greg, and Greg was real tall, good-looking guy. You wouldn't know really that either one of these guys were gay, by the way. I don't think they were trying to hide it. They were just men, which was kind of cool. Greg was from Hawaii, and he was big on flowers, so he grew orchids. And one of the things that Design Greenhouse, Brian Jeffers Design Greenhouse. So what they did was, in the back, they had this covered area, and they sold all kinds of plants, and they had a service. So they had got 2 guys in vans that would drive around all day servicing plants all over Beverly Hills, Pacific Palisades, mainly the highfalutin rich people, right? The rich neighborhoods. And so Greg had a van, and I spent the whole time. So that was September, October, November, December. So for 3 months I worked there. I quit on Christmas. And Greg and I got to be pals. So I talked myself into the job. So look, I can sell anything. I can do anything. I've got tools. I know how to build stuff. So if you need help fixing anything, I could do that. So they're like, okay, you sound good. And obviously they like the way I look. Who could blame them? I was cute, So I get the job, and I'm hanging out with Greg all day, and we're driving around. I remember the guys from LA Law, I don't remember their names, but 2 of those people, Corbin Burnson, and then the couple that were married in real life, who were attorneys on that. I used to go to their house all the time and so I learned how to trim the plants and replant things, switch pots for root-bound plants, dress things properly, Spanish moss, amending the soil, all of it. Funny thing, on Beverly, I'm congested, sorry. I think it's from that stuff, That's probably what it is. Down on Beverly here, I planted 2 trees in the fall of '92. They grew so much that they eventually cut them down. Because that was 32 years ago. Like, imagine, you can plant something, it can grow, be there long enough, and then get cut down. See it come and go, man. I've seen it come and go. And yeah, that was like one of my first jobs. And I guess I was going to get into something here with telling some stories about it, but I want to get through all the rest of this. And yeah, it was funny that I ran into this. I will tell you this story. I'm sure I said this before. But I'll go back to the managing the sunglass store, the Sunglass Menagerie. Keep in mind, I'm a senior in high school. It's the summer. I just graduate. And I'm getting in shape to go in the Marine Corps. But I'm managing this joint. This guy comes in one day. He's a Greek guy from town. I kind of know who he is. This is Seaside Park. His name's Gordon. Super nice guy. Yeah, he was a school teacher during the school year, and in the summertime, he was a lifeguard. So he comes in, a little twang to his voice there, so something's not right here, but it's fine. And by the way, I love Gordon. Still friends with Gordon. He's much older than me at the time. I'm 18 years old. This guy, he's had to be in his 30s or something at that time. Comes in, looks perfectly normal, starts talking to me, knows my father, all of it, knows everybody else I know on the island. He's looking for a part-time gig at nights, a couple nights a week. So I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll hire you. Guy shows up. First day he shows up. This is no exaggeration, man. He's wearing hot pants. He's got a button-down shirt on, but he's got it tied here in a knot. So he's got his whole midriff showing, dark tan, hot pants, shirt tied. Walks in with a stack of fashion magazines, sits in the corner, thumbing through, had no interest in learning the business. All he wanted to do was collect a paycheck. He thought he could just, because he was a grown-ass man, he thought he could kind of bully me around, I suppose, to a certain extent. Like charm me, make me like him, and then let him get away with murder. In case you haven't picked up on it yet, I'm not that kind of guy. This guy's got to pull his fucking weight, man. That's what you got hired for. So I'm getting irked. But again, I'm 18, and I'm not a calm 18-year-old, really. You know, like I'm having a good time with the ladies and whatnot, and surfing every day, and getting in shape, and running every night, and all that. But I got a screw loose. It's the reason I went in the Marines. Like, it took me a long time to learn how to suppress my rage, like my instantaneous rage that gets triggered. Took me a long time to control that, and I mean, I was controlling it pretty good, but it was festering. I think that's a better way to explain. It took me a long time how to learn how to not allow it to damage me mentally. That's a more important way to put it. So I'm pissed. I don't know what to do about it. And my regional manager comes in, and I tell her about it, and she says, "Well, you got to fire him." I said, "Yeah, but he's a grown man. I've never done that before." She goes, "I'll help you do it. We'll talk to him together. I mean, you got to do it, but I'll be there." Like, moral support. Okay, all right. So we picked a day. Like, I knew the next day he was coming in. She said, "I'll come in that day." Like, I think it was a Thursday afternoon. So he shows up. She's there. I said, "I got to talk to you, man." So we go outside and we walk up down the board, which is, by the way, is how I got this job in the first place. Let me back up a little bit. No, man, this is, there's so much. I say I want to start at this point, and I remember the day I went and got that job. I'll tell you how I got the job first. I guess that's what I was going to tell you anyhow. It's the weed, man. I had just gotten caught having sex with my girlfriend by her mother down the street. That just happened. And, you know, she kicked me out of the house and everything. It was fucking dramatic, right? So I walk up the street to the boardwalk, and there's this store. The sunglass store just opened. Never been there before. I worked there every summer for years. And this real cute girl working there. She looked like Margot Kidder, man. She was the manager. And we start talking. I tell her what just happened. And she's like, "Oh, man." She goes, "Well, by the way, you looking for a job?" I'm like, okay. I wasn't looking for a job. I was just fucking traumatized. So she hired me. And within like a week of being there, not even, I came in for work, and she said, "Look, man, how do you feel about being an assistant manager?" She goes, "Well, I hired a friend of mine, but I caught her selling drugs already here at the store. So I had to let her go." So I said, "Okay, I'll do it. Where am I?" So I learned responsibilities, and I learned how to do the books, and I worked the register and everything. And about another week goes by, and she says, "Look, we got a manager's meeting down on Long Beach Island. We might not even get to this shit." So she says, so we go to the beach down at Long Beach Island. They rented a beach house. I think there was 5 sunglass menageries. This is 1985, summer 85. And so they had the managers and assistant managers from all 5 locations, plus the regional managers and the 2 brothers that owned the business. And they rented a house. We drove up this street. It was the last house, beach house, big porch, sliding glass doors, overlooking the ocean, friggin' beautiful, big ass table, loaded up with ice, with seafood, and there's like champagne and all kinds of other drinks, and it was friggin' decked out. I've never been like anything like this in my life. I'm 18 years old, just graduated high school. It's like corporate world shit, you know? I suppose. What do I know? So I'm starting to talk to a couple people. My manager disappears. One of the owners, I don't remember his name, comes out and says, "Hey, you're Mike, right?" So yeah, he goes, "Hey, why don't you come out and talk with me?" So he takes me outside, and we do this walk thing where we walk up and down the street as he's talking to me. So basically, and this takes a while. We walk down the street, we walk up the street. Walk down the street, we walk up the street. We must have done that 5 or 6 times. And it takes a while to do that walk. So we were out there for quite some time, bullshitting. And the breakdown is they're firing my boss, the manager, because she hired a woman that sold drugs out of the store. They're asking me if I want to be the manager. Now, keep in mind, I didn't tell you this. She drove. She's getting fired. We got to drive back together. I take the job, right? After I think we left right after. I went in, she came out, you know, she was cool. They were very nice to her about it. She wasn't emotional or crying or anything like that. She took it like a champ, like a Jersey girl would. She was very cool. And I remember her being cool. We got in the car, and she's like, I get it, you know, no hard feelings. I'm like, yeah, man, I think this is weird. She goes, it's fine. Anyhow, so I became the manager, and that's what I did that summer. So flash to Gordon and having to fire him. The regional manager's there, and we do the same thing with the walk-in thing, up and down the boardwalk. And I'm talking to Gordon. Again, 18-year-old kid, right? 30-something-year-old man. And I said, Gordon, you can't work here anymore. He goes, what's the problem? So you don't work. He goes, what do you mean? So you don't do anything. Dude, you come in, you sit down, you look at magazines. Well, I make an effort. I talk to people about it. I said, it's even beyond that, dude. Your attire is inappropriate. And he gets insulted, as one of these guys would, right? He gets totally insulted. What do you mean? What's wrong with the way I dress? I said, dude, you can't walk in looking like a 42nd Street hooker. You're literally wearing hot pants and you're tying your shirt up, and it's like you're not the same guy. Right now, you're like a guy, like a dude. You come in there, you're freaking prancing, man. You can't be prancing around dressed like a whore. That's fucking crazy, man. Like, I'm supposed to be okay with that. Everybody else is supposed to be okay with this. This is 1985, man. I condensed that story, you know, because it was talking back and forth, and him hemming and hawing a little bit, and me trying to be nice, and finally he said something that just I couldn't take it anymore. And all that just came out like that, and he was like, "Okay, I get it. Yeah, you get it. You're fucking fired." So jump to 1992 in the fall. I'm working over here at Brian Jeffers Design Greenhouse, and that regional manager that watched me fire that guy walks in. And had no idea she was out here, and that was a nice catch-up. Anyhow, that's the end of that. Let's get to another one. This is not a joke or anything. This is just... This is self-observation, where I want to make fun of myself in a way, because I feel like I've remained like a strong, healthy person and optimistic and helpful and all that because I avoid a lot of drama in my life, right? I can take so much of it and then I walk away. I don't care how long I've known you or whatever. I'll try. I'll talk to you. I'll try to give you some constructive criticism, but there's only so many times I can hear the same pathetic story. That's it. Like, I can't hear the same thing over and 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 over again and again and again and again and again. Same fucking story, same fucking way, where you're complaining you can't get over this hump in your life. You're brainwashing yourself to stay in that fucking groove in a road, man. Claw yourself out of that shit already. So, but the point is that because I've avoided this, I also didn't develop the muscle of recognizing, this is when I was younger, I get it now, recognizing feelings to be able to deal with it where I can relate with everybody else around me. So I seem like maybe a little bit colder than some people, you know, or like an alien or something, because I'm not, when I'm in a group of people and we're all sharing a similar experience, I'm kind of aloof about it. You know, it's one of the problems with relationships for me, because like sometimes you got to spell shit out to me, man. I mean, I say this all the time like a joke. I don't have a jewel in my head. I can't read your fucking mind. Can't read your mind. So just tell me. Just be confident. I prefer dating people who are confident because they'll tell you. Just fucking tell me. But it's got to be accurate too. Can't be based on bullshit. Anyhow, I'm gonna work that out. Again, it'll be making fun of myself. Trust me. Being friends with women, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could talk about with that. I've got a lot of female friends. Some of whom, you know, I've stuck it in. You know who you are, and you're welcome. That's a joke. It's pretty. I thought that was pretty good. They say men and women can't be friends, or they say they just can't be friends, right? Because sex always gets in the way. So the key to that is be friends with the ugly ones. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but there's some funny stuff that's there that's true. I can get and tell you some fun stories. And yesterday, what was 420, and I'll touch on that real briefly here. I'm not a huge pothead. I mean, it might seem like it to some people, but almost daily. So you say, wait a second, you can't say you're not a pothead, but you smoke pot almost every day. Well, there's a difference. Like real potheads, stoners, they wake and bake, man. They get up, smoke grass. They smoke grass periodically throughout the day. Some people, we discussed it here before, get high every 20 or 30 minutes for every waking minute of a friggin' day. I don't know how you function that way. I know those people. They annoy everybody else that knows them, but they're unaware of that fact because they're fucking high the whole fucking day. Like, there's no way that THC is even out of your system. I mean, it's not. It stays in there for days anyhow, but some of these people smoke so much throughout the day, they go to bed, when they wake up in the morning, they're still fucking high, man. Like, that's not good. It's not good for you. For me, my thing is just a little bit, like a couple little hits at night. That's it. After work, all of it. It's a medicine for me. It calms my mind. I could sleep. I could watch something funny, go to bed, not overthinking anything, and wake up fresh the next day. It's a tool for me. I will say something else just to educate some of you. There's a product, they changed the name, that you can look this up. It's called Phospholode. It's a fertilizer. And the growers use this stuff. It's a new name now. But the problem with it is it leaves particulate metals in the plant. And that increases the weight. It's a measurable weight. And so they make more money that way. However, you're smoking that. That's not good for you. So the stuff that I get is from a friend of mine. He's been growing it for over 30 years. It's very healthy. And by the way, he does a thing. There's more education for you that a lot of you don't know anything about this. A lot of you may have tried it and you're like, oh, it tastes horrible. It made you cough and everything. Well, there's a thing called rinsing. And so when you're growing, this is for those of you who've ever grown before, this will just be a good tip for you. Let's say you're using fertilizer and other things to grow the plants. When you're getting towards the end of the grow, like the last couple weeks, no more fertilizer, no more additives whatsoever, nothing but clear water. You know, if you can use mineral water, that's good too. But just that's all you do. Flush those roots, let the plant get all that stuff out of its system. And if you take the time to do that, rinse the plant properly, that's going to give you the most flavorful stuff. Now you know. And that's the sort of stuff that if you do smoke it, it doesn't taste bad. It's not going to make you cough like that as much. It's a whole thing. So we'll put that aside now. So yesterday, being 420, I ate lunch late yesterday. I think I had an edible on an empty stomach. Somebody gave me all these edibles. They've been in the packages for months in the fridge. But I'm just telling you, I don't do it. I don't like edibles. I've got some crazy edible stories. I don't like it because it stays in your system too long. But I had one, and then I made one of my pancakes at lunchtime, and it kicked in, and I was trying to do some leather work over here. I was. And Wonder Hussy was on live. So I'm kind of listening to her, and I'm making a part to this leather holster I made. It's pretty badass, actually. This is a prototype, so all the colors are mismatched. But I was making this part that the strap goes through, right? That rests on your shoulder there. It's two parts. But this top part, I was cutting the slots in it. And I mean, it took a long time to cut those slots and kind of trim this up the way I wanted it, you know, a half hour or so. And at least it seemed that way. I was lit. And I got this slot cutter. You got to really whack it with the hammer, which, by the way, go off on another tangent here. I need a press. I'm looking for of course, it'd be cast iron. You can't just send me one. It costs too much money. But like a arbor press, something like that I can rig so I could put my pricking irons in it and push the holes through. Holes when I need to make holes as well. So I'm not pounding all the time. It's got to be annoying for my neighbors. They haven't said anything yet, but I'm conscientious about that thing. I walk around barefoot, no shoes all the time in my house because I got a lady downstairs. Anyhow, I was making these parts, and I just finished this top one with all this work in it. And I moved a couple things off the table right here. and I went to adjust something with the computer with Wonder Hussy, and I looked back, and this top piece was missing. The bottom piece was sitting right there. Top piece was missing. And my initial thought was, it's like wormhole? It's like another dimension? Because if you guys been here long, if you know, I got some kooky stories about this place being kind of haunted, and there's been some wild stories here. And in other times of my life, and other places too. I think I did a whole video on that. I know I did. So that's my, because I'm on edible, right? So that's when my turn, I'm like, okay, I get it, man. If there's somebody here and I can't see you and you need to talk to me about something, I'm totally open to it right now. And I'm like, let me just be double sure. And I look, and the stuff that I had put up on the top of the box over here, it was up there. So that's why you have to be careful if you smoked anything or you ate anything and you're on an edible, because you'll get some kooky ideas in your head. Be totally fake. You just invent that shit instantaneously. All right, what's next? You guys enjoying this? Let me know. I don't know if this is such a good idea. Getting into my mind here. By the way, you might notice my hair's coming in a little bit. Sounds crazy, but kind of that joke gift that my friend Kurgi gave me at Christmas time, the biotin, I put a little bit of that on my fingers and I rubbed that in, and I've been doing it now since December. And if I showed you a close-up, you can see all the little baby hairs coming in. It's crazy. It's crazy. We'll see how that works out. Oh, this is just a note to myself. Somebody asked in the comments about wanting to hear about people I've known in the music world, because he knows I've mentioned Ricky Rocket before. Me and Ricky were friends for a solid 5 years, riding motorcycles together, and there's a lot to say about that. I don't know how much I'd want to reveal. One of my best friends, Shakin' Steve, back home in Jersey, grew up with the Dramarama, and he was their original bass player. They're all still tight, childhood friends. So I've hung out with those guys a bunch and hung out in the green room with them a bunch of times. Then the Foo Fighters, the guy I used to be friends with, he was adopted, and the people adopted him had a kid. It's his brother, and that's Chris Sheffield, something like that, the guitar player for the Foo Fighters. So I know Chris. There's some funny stuff there. And I was backstage with them one time up in Santa Barbara, and I know Dave Grohl is afraid of me. And there's a story about why that is. If you look up my Hitman story video, you'll hear about that there. There's some others too, so maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. I'm not that impressed with it. Like when I think about the comedy thing, I didn't even write this down, but it just popped in my head. That's funny to me. Like I remember, I think it was 91. Earth Day in New York City, 1990, I think. And I was with a couple buddies of mine, because we, went up to Earth Day. Went up there to smoke grass in Central Park. And, with a million other people. And we're in Penn Station on the way back, and I see Sam Kinison. He's got these two hot girls with him, and some big guy with, I think he had red hair, a bodyguard or something. And I'm looking at the girls, and I leave my friends. I walk right up to all of them, and I go, Sam! I put my hand out, I shake his hand like that. I'm telling him how much I like him and appreciate his work and everything, but I'm staring at the ass that's around him. The whole time, I'm like barely looking at him. I'm looking at the girls, like, yeah, man, it's very great to meet you. You're friggin' amazing, super funny, dude. He's like, oh, yeah, thanks, man. And he was tiny. So that was I spent a night with Michael Richards, Kramer from Seinfeld. That was kind of fun. I used to play poker with a bunch of guys, and one of them was Newman from Seinfeld, Wayne Knight. That was pretty good. And I was friends with Ralphie May there for a bit. I told some video recently, and I talked about the motorcycle wreck I had 20 years ago, in 2004, going down Melrose, where the guy T-boned me. I was going through a green light. It's the video I did on the Wesco Engineer boots, and I misspoke. I didn't blow a red light. I went through the green light. The other guy ran the red light and T-boned me. And I flew through the air like a rag doll. I tell the whole story in that video. You can watch it. But when I come to, I open my eyes, I'm all twisted up on the road, and I see all these feet around me, and I move, and I hear everybody go, he's alive. And I stand up, and this woman walks up to me. Her name's Lauren, and we became friends, and she was Ralphie May's personal assistant. And if I told this, I'm sorry. I don't know, I might have told this recently. It sounds like I've said this before. This is not something I've told in a long time. I might have been thinking about it. If I'm repeating myself, just blame the weed. So, she called me up. I didn't have a cell phone at the time. Ralphie made fun of me about that. So, I went up to his house up there in the hills, and she wanted me to help her rig a way to hang these curtains. It was a concrete kind of structure. I had like a concrete ceiling. And I had to put anchors in, and I've used these things called hitching rings that are steel plates, bolt them up, and they've got a welded eye bolt and a welded ring on it. And you can stick anything through there. I can hang a hammock up. I got one here, and I run my bands through them to work out and all that other good stuff. So I got galvanized pipe, polished it up with steel wool and WD-40, and she got the kind of curtains, had the big eyelets in them, and we ran them. It looked like $1 million. And she loved it. And I'm looking around at Ralphie's pad, and I was unimpressed with his furniture, because, you know, I make furniture. And as a joke, I said to her, I said, you tell Ralphie, I'll make him a dining room table he could fuck on. That guy was like 500 pounds at the time. And I said that, you know, just being a joke between she and I. But she repeated it to him. Because the next day, I got a phone call saying, Ralphie wants to meet you. Can you come up? So I go up there, and he's getting a kick out of me, man. And he goofs on me about the cell phone thing. I was very rockabillyed out. I had my Levi's on with the cuff and my Wesco engineer boots, my leather jacket and everything, and my wallet with the chain. He goes, you put a chain on a phone, you'd have one, wouldn't you? You know, he was great, man. That guy was really cool. I hung out with him up there at the house 3 or 4 times. His wife at the time, Lana Turner, she had a nose job done, or it was deviated symptoms, she said. I'm assuming it was a nose job. I don't remember. Maybe that was all it was. But I remember her nose was all bandaged up. She was a sweetheart. And I was going up there a bunch because we were talking about doing furniture and expanding his pad a little bit. We're going to do a bump out of the kitchen. And it was just before his lap band surgery. And then he's like, look, I'm going to go through something right now, and I'll have to get back to you because we'll see how this goes. And then he got it done, but then I didn't hear from him anymore. And then before you knew it, he was dead. It was kind of a shame. He was cool. Oh, yeah. It's just a thought I had. You remember milk cartons with the missing kids on them? You ever think about like what that was like when you were a kid and you looked at that? It's a freaking bummer, man. Think about it for a minute. Like I remember when I remember being 5 years old. I remember the Banana Splits. It was a TV show for kids, grown men in like dog costumes that were in a band, and I had this plastic cereal bowl. Man, I had to eat my cereal every day in that red Banana Splits bowl. You know, eating my Captain Crunch or Fruit Loops or whatever. And I just want to, it's my first sugar fix of the day, man. I want to start my day off like, oh, this is exciting, you know? Yeah, and then you glance over at the milk carton, and there's some kid that's been missing for 3 years. And you're like, oh, shit, that kid's my age. What the fuck? Like, that's some heavy shit to dump on a kid, man. What the fuck, man? Like, just let us be kids already. I got to work that one out, but that's a weird thing to think about. What do we got here? Dating bigger women makes everything else seem smaller. Oh, yeah, I did that already. That was, I think I talked about that on a Sunday night chat. I've been a douchebag. Oh, yeah. Yeah, junior prom. So, look, I'm gonna write down everything I can remember about time. Because, I know I talk a lot. I tell stories about relationships and everything, and it might sound sometimes like I'm blaming women or whatever, and it's not. It's a two-way street, man. I know what I've done, and I was thinking about it because there's a picture up here. I'm going to show you this picture real quick. Don't go anywhere. This was a picture my mom had in the house. She kept this picture. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's my junior prom. Her name was Beth, And she was not a serious girlfriend. She was in my math class, and I thought she was drop dead gorgeous, and I didn't even know her. But I could just, like, every time I saw her walk by, I was like, ah, oh, she's so pretty. She's just so pretty. And I wasn't shy, so I asked her to go to the prom with me, and she said yes. And I was like, oh no. But yeah, she was very quiet. And I'm not just going to tell a story. What the fuck? We got time. This does not put me in a good light. I'm just telling you right now. This is one of those times where I can look back and say, yeah, I regret being like that. So, I tried going out with her. Like, I went over, picked her up, took her out. She lived over in Bayville. We'd go down to the Bay and hang out. I didn't know if she was, because I was used to this thing where you talk to somebody, you smile, you get along, you make them laugh. Next thing you're making out. 15 minutes later, you know, it's happening. Not with her. You know, and not that she didn't want to, she may have wanted to, but she didn't know me well enough. I didn't know her well enough, but she just wouldn't open up. I couldn't get her to talk about anything. It was like I'm sure she had a personality, but I didn't see one. And that was a fucking problem. I was like, oh man, I got myself in a pickle here because this girl's like a bag of rocks, you know, just there's nothing here. Like, I can't, like, get her to be animated in any way. She was so sweet. She was just very, very sweet. You know, she was a very, as far as I can tell, very kind, nice human being. Can't say anything bad about her. But at the time, this is what was going on in my mind. You know, at the time, I was like, oh my God, she's so pretty. Let's have a good time. It wasn't even about trying to have sex with her. I was just used to that happening by that time. Sorry. That's just how that was. And I wasn't trying. I never pushed that with anybody. At any rate, we went out a couple times, you know, because I wanted to feel like we knew each other, and that's what I told her. And, you know, we did the prom. And after the prom, I was living alone in high school. And junior year, I was living in this little apartment next to the post office in Seaside Park. And everybody, just like in senior prom, and the next year, everybody came to my house, right? We partied. And there was this guy with us, and he sat at our table. He was a nerdy dude. This was the graduating class in '84, which, by the way, 1984 Central Regional graduating class. Fuck you guys, man. Let me tell you something, man. The '84 class was so bad. On their class trip, they got into so much trouble that the '85 class was punished. And they didn't allow the 1985 senior graduating class to have a class trip because they knew that we were worse. Class of '84 fucked us. Screw you guys. True story. So junior prom, I'm hanging out with the '84 guys at my house. And one of the guys there he was a real nerdy guy, and he had this date that was hot to trot. And she was hitting on me. So I ended up hanging with her, and I asked him to drive my date home. And that was it. And I felt bad about it at the time. I still feel bad about it today, but that's how it happened. And the next year, senior year, I ran into Beth, and she caught me in the hallway. She says, hey, did you get the pictures from prom? I said, yeah. She said, would you please get me them? So I gave her all the pictures, but that was it. I never talked to her anymore. So, Beth, if you're watching this, I apologize so much. I was a total jerk. I was just a kid. But there's tons of stories. Well, not tons, but there's quite a few I could probably think of where I will not highlight me in my best light. But I'm just being honest, man. I mean, none of us are perfect, you know. Okay. What else do we got here? What is it here? Samuel. Oh. I had an idea for a t-shirt. You guys know you probably don't know who Samuel Whitmore was. He was a big time hero for this country. He had fought in the Indian Wars with Washington and all that. And he was fighting in the 1740s, 50s, 60s. Here is 1770s, and he's in his 70s. I think this was the Battle of Concord. Paul Revere comes to his house. He say, hey, man, these assholes in those red fucking coats, man, they're on their way. They're getting off the fucking boats right now, man. Get ready. Takes off to the next place. Well, Samuel Whitmore was a fucking badass. I think he was in his 70s at the time, like 78 years old. He's like, I'm not running anywhere. He's got a pair of dueling pistols, a musket, and this really ornate sword that was gifted to him in these earlier wars because he was a badass back then. Crazy stories about this dude. And the British show up. He walks out into his front yard and starts killing them. Empties his pistols, empties his muskets. A couple guys run at him. He draws his sword. He's slaying motherfuckers, right? They shoot him. He takes several musket balls. He goes down. A bunch of guys stab him with their bayonets, leave him for dead. This guy lived another 20 years and had more kids in that time. So I thought about that phrase, get off my lawn. And I'm thinking, like, we got to need an image of Samuel Whitmore with his dueling pistols and his sword. You know, get off my lawn. To me, that's funny. That's just funny to me. It's a visual. What we got here? Big fat lesbians are angry and unhappy because they couldn't get a man to fuck them. All right, so that's not a joke. That's just a sentence I wrote for myself to remind myself of working that out because I've known these women. I've known these women, man. I spent a couple of years with this group of girls, roller derby, the Derby dolls, you know. I ran their security for the first season. I know who these women are. I know how they think. I know what goes on in their minds. And I've kind of touched on it before. I wasn't trying to score with these girls necessarily, but it happened a lot with them. And quite a few of them were lesbians, like were married to another woman or had women friends. Everybody knew them as a lesbian, and they just jumped me. And they swear you to secrecy, and they tell you all this stuff. But between them and the women I knew that weren't super attractive, but I got to be real close with them and talk to them about all this stuff, I understand the mindset. And I might expound upon that in another video because I could probably talk about that for an hour. No problem. Not much of this left here. Maybe this will be a shorter video for you. Not. Every time I say that, I talk for another 40 friggin' minutes. Record Kirgy, ask about stripper tip pulls. Oh, so my friend Kirgy, you guys have heard me mention her before. You've seen her briefly here and there in videos. She and I drove to Arizona last week. Good friend of mine. One of my best friends. And we've been friends for a long time. Kirgy was a stripper for decades, and she ended up running a strip joint for a long time. She got fired. There was some drama there quite some time ago. Boy, it could be 10 years already. I don't know. And I helped her out at that time. Taught her how to paint, got her a bunch of painting jobs. She eventually got a job in the kitchen, became a chef. She ended up having to take care of her father. He had dementia, and then he finally passed away like last year. And so she went through ups and downs and everything else. But I saw something on Gutfeld. They were covering this story. So I guess there's a group of strippers up in Washington State, and they unionized a while ago. And now they want to do a tip pool. So they're some of the girls, and you know these are the ugly chicks, right? That don't make the tips. They want all the dancers to put their tips in a bucket and then equally divide it up amongst themselves. And keep in mind, the house gets a cut of that, right? So they want to divvy up all the money at the end of the night. And I laughed about it, and they were pretty funny about it on the show. And I'm like, I instantly thought of Kirby. I was like, I got to ask her. So I did, and I did record her doing it. It was when we were driving, but I erased the videos because they were longer, and I'm going to talk to her about it another time. But she had a lot to say about it. You know, obviously, it's stupid. And that was her take on it. She's like, no. This is the problem with socialism, right? It's when you give everything away, there's going to be a certain percentage of the population that chooses not to do anything. They're just going to collect theirs. They're not going to participate. That's just how it is, right? And we have that now. We have plenty of people in society that don't really want to participate in it. And there are safety nets for that. But there's no such thing as equal pay because there's no such thing as equal effort. This mandatory thing with pay, you deserve to get paid. No. You have to earn that pay. This idea that you get paid this is silly. And they're fucking everything up right now, in my opinion, because there used to be, like, fast food jobs used to be entry-level positions for young people. That was a young person's job. Now, they're proving to you, the government, how bad they're fucking up our society, because now they know there are people working at fast food as adults because it's the only job they can get because the economy is so fucked. Right? So it's crazy. But this thing about, you know, I don't even want to get that into it. But the point is, those jobs were never intended to be a high-paying job, never intended to be the sorts of jobs that you retire on. You get that job, you learn how much it sucks, but you learn your work ethic. You learn how to come into work on time, you learn how to do a task, work as a team, all that stuff. You get fed up with it, and then you go off and you find a better life for yourself. That's how it works. That's how it is. That's the reality. No other way to look at that. That's the way it should still be. We got to get back to that shit. All right? I don't know if it's ever going to happen because everybody's brainwashed into being stupid now. But this thing that they're doing here, that's what they're doing. And it's what's going to happen is, I don't know what's going to happen, but the good-looking strippers, the ones that put in the effort with the outfit, like buying the outfits, making their own clothes, selecting the music, doing their hair and nails, staying toned and fit, keeping a good smile, the hair, everything that they put into it. Because a lot of those women, you know, they really see it as an art form at that point in their lives. You can laugh at it and everything else, but that's what they're doing, man. They're trying to see it in a positive light and make the best of it. They're the ones that are bringing in the customers. And the customers don't want this either. They wouldn't support that. Some guy comes in and wants to give some girl $100. In his mind, that's her money. It's nobody else's money. Nobody else is entitled to it. So this was just stupid. But I thought, Kirky's so animated, I wrote down to ask her about it. So we'll do that again. I'm working on her. You know, she's not come from in front of the camera. She doesn't like the way she looks. She's older now and everything else. But, I mean, her stories would make mine look like, you know, stuff that belongs on Sesame Street. Like, her stories are the best. Way better than mine. What I like about old movies, the blatant littering. I love film noir flicks. It's just so funny. I watched one a couple weeks ago. The guy from My Three Sons, Fred McMurray, he's a cop, but he falls in love with this girl, and he decides that this bank robber, it's her boyfriend, is going to come around, and if the circumstances are right, he's going to take the money from the bank job, kill the guy, and try to get away with it. But it all falls apart. But at one point, he's sitting there, and he opens up a pack of gum, chews it, throws the wrapper on the ground, right? You see this in every movie. Humphrey Bogart, or the Gabby Hayes with him, drinking the booze, throwing the bottle in the water, you know? Like, that's, you watch those movies, they just take a pack of cigarettes, crumple up, throw it on the ground, like it's no big deal. They all do it, you know. And when I was a kid in the 70s, this is what everybody did. Everybody's throwing the trash out the window. There's trash everywhere, man. New York City, trash everywhere. Every town. Pictures of Patterson, papers and cigarette packs, fucking garbage every fucking way. Today, you do that today, some citizen's going to tackle you and perform a citizen arrest on you. It's so crazy. You can't litter like that. In the old movies, boom. It's pretty crazy, man. But that's what I like best about old movies. The one that got away, NPR girlfriend. I already did that video. Okay. Criticism and YouTube comments. Look, I'm not doing this for the accolades, man. I'm not doing a YouTube channel so that I can hear people tell me they like me or like what I'm saying. That's nice. It reinforces what I'm doing, and it does motivate me to continue. So please keep doing it. But, you know, I've said this a million times. I do it just because I'm compelled to do it, and I want to do it. That's it. And in the immortal words of William Montgomery, I ain't never going to stop. That's it for now. You guys have a good night. If you like this idea, what I did here, I will pull down the 3-ring binders and I will go in totally blind on what I have there, and it will inspire tons of stuff. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope this weekend is, this upcoming week is awesome for you. Let's all do well. Let's help each other out. Let's be positive. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.